Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. At this time, I'll call to order the regular meeting of the La Quinta City Council for Tuesday, July 16, 2013. We've already had an early meeting, so let it be known that all council members are present. And then the first item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on an item on the agenda, I'd ask that you please fill out a request to speak form and give it to our city clerk. At this time, anybody wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so. Seeing none, we'll move on to our closed session, but we're going to defer that to after this meeting. So we will then move on to the next item on the agenda. And see, we already did the pledge, so we don't have to do it again. So we'll move on to confirmation. We've been through two things here, so we're doing another thing. Confirmation agenda, are there any changes, additions, or deletions by staff?
No, there are none.
By council members? All right. Next item on the agenda is presentations. We have a presentation and a proclamation to the Community Services Department. Edie, is this for you? Come forward here. I'll stay over on this side. And that.
Where would you like me to stand?
Edie is our Director of Community Services for the city of La Quinta.
Gotta go in front of the camera.
And each year the La Quinta Chamber of Commerce recognizes organizations and individuals for their contribution to the community and to their participation in chamber activities. The chamber asked the city to provide proclamations for these honorees. At the Chamber's Award and Installation Luncheon held this past June, it was our distinct privilege to provide a proclamation honoring our own Community Services Department. This department was honored not only for their collaboration with the La Quinta Chamber of Commerce, but for their collaboration with other local nonprofit organizations and community groups. We greatly appreciate all that our Community Service Department does towards making La Quinta the gem of the desert. Edie. And your staff, they do a wonderful job. I think I explained that a little earlier this afternoon.
Thank you. I think we need a group shot.
We have all of our staff here. We'll
Yes.
just have them come
Come
out so
up.
people can see who they are. And
Don't be bashful.
Come on,
Stand
come on
up.
up and stand by me with the flag. I want to do a quick photo. Since Tustin's actually going to be in the photo, the fans will be the one taking it for a change.
And just real quick, so that you know who all these folks are, I'm just going to do a very quick introduction. We have Shelley Weinman. She works at the Senior Center. She's the office assistant. Lots of things there. Angela Gurecki, she's our senior secretary, takes care of a lot of issues for us and manages a lot of customer service. Christina Calderon, she's the Senior Center supervisor and oversees the operation there.
And serves those great lunches.
And does those great lunches, that's right. Thomas Stona Beach, we practiced that today. So he's part of our building maintenance. Paul Fusen, the supervisor of building maintenance. Robert Ambrose, he handles a lot of the sports, facility rentals, the pool contract, and community service grants. Tustin handles our marketing, promotions, and events. And Steve Hallett is our park guy, our parks manager. He oversees the contract with Silver Rock and Landmark, and he has taken over the building maintenance staff. So that makes up our team. We have a couple of other people missing today. Gil Vallapondo, who works with the recreation staff, and Carolyn Duran, that works with the Senior Center. And this makes up our team that handles all those services. So thank you.
And a
We really
great group.
appreciate it.
Okay, now let's run this over here.
Get that wide angle lens.
All right, I got it ready. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Excellent.
Good.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to approval of minutes of July 2nd.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion motion approved. Move on to the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull items number 6 and number 10 for discussion. Couple
6
questions.
and 10, you don't want to put it on a business item?
No.
Just comment, okay. All right, I'll entertain the motion.
I'll move the consent calendar as amended.
Second.
That's removing items 6 and 10 for some questions.
Second.
Second. Then a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved.
Okay, item number 6, it's the revenue expenditure report, and I guess I just had a couple of questions. I was a little confused in terms of the revenues we reported were at approximately 50% through May, and saying that the reason why it was low is because of the CIP fund being at 102.6 million. And I've been talking about the fact that our CIP fund is nowhere near
Yeah.
102.6 million, and I guess the question I had is, obviously that's a CIP that carries over multiple years, and we're just talking about funds through May 31. So I just need to understand, I know that when we do the capital, when we had RDA, we funded capital improvement and had a dollar amount, and then as those projects were being done, we paid for those projects. But when there were shortfalls, general fund picked that up. So what's the, I don't wanna say the real number, but how are we at 50%? And why is the CIP being used as the main reason, and yet we're still gonna get to 100% by the end of June? So
I asked the same question today to our city manager, and do a prognosis on this, and I'm gonna let him explain it.
Well, I would
Oh,
prefer
or
Rob.
let-
very good, very good.
I was wondering before you do.
Just like, wait, where'd you go?
So basically, the CIP gets budgeted every year, and as we do those projects, that money gets, moved over to the CIP. So the expenditure side of it is actually a lot more over multiple years. And for example, the big projects that Tim and I were looking at today are the Adams Street, because some of that hasn't come in yet, that funding, and the Dune Palms, road, which isn't even started, and Tim told me it won't be started for a couple of years. So you're gonna have these timing differences of when that revenue actually comes into that fund, and it actually sort of skews the numbers, because it's coming out of all these other funds that are listed here.
And we do have carryover, so if we don't finish a project within a budgeted year, that
Correct.
budgeted dollar carries over to the
Right.
next year
Right.
until those monies are always there.
Yes,
But when we have shortfalls, where does that money come from?
when we have
If
shortfalls.
we go over budget in a CIP project?
Well, in a CIP project, and I think Tim can probably speak to that better than I can, but I believe there's a contingency usually in the CIP projects.
It depends on the project and where the original funding came from. Most of the time, the shortfalls are, it can be general fund, but it can also be DIF. It could be, CVAG pays for quite a, 75% of our road projects. So it really depends on the project as to where the shortfalls get made up.
Okay. So in a post-RDA world,
Mm-hmm.
going through the CIP process and the budgeting process, will that still be the norm where we have the carryover process, and in the event there's a shortfall, depending on what bucket that may come from, we're drawing on the general fund to make up those differences, or are we looking?
Only with council approval would
Right.
we ever do any of that.
Right.
One of the things that, like $12 million right now is showing up as revenue, but it doesn't come for the Dune Palms Bridge over the Whitewater crossing. But it is, but we won't see, most of that is for construction money that's 2 years away from actually coming into the city's funds, but we're still showing that. And that's part of that 102 million that you're seeing.
Right.
So it's that kind of thing, that delayed revenue that I think is making the CIP look like it's way behind in collecting revenue, but it's because it's a multi-year project.
The way I read the report, it really looked very skewed is a good word, thinking that if we're just talking about revenues through May 31st, but we were using a budget amount that's over the course of multiple years on CIP, wasn't apples to apples.
Right.
And that's why I was questioning it.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
year period.
Well, this happens every year, that our revenues are always trying to catch up with our expenses in that, and we understand that. But I always want to know the prognosis, make sure that we do have the revenues that will take care of the expenses, that's for sure.
Because the reality is we have $1 million or even less going forward when we look at our CIP, even though we have $102 million worth of projects
Yeah.
that we are planning to somehow get done. And
Well, and those are carryovers
Right.
also from projects that are under construction, even the Adams Street Bridge. We're still collecting money from federal highways for that project as well.
and I'll go ahead and ask 10.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And the only comment I had on 10 is, my understanding through the city attorney is we need to amend the recommended actions in terms of how we're voting on the resolutions,
Right,
correct?
yes.
And so the city clerk did provide me an amended action in terms of wording of numbers 1, 2, and 3 actions. So I just thought I'd pull those for separate vote if you want to.
These are the corrected versions?
Yeah. I don't know if you want to hear those as a separate action or
You don't
if
need
want
to.
to say as amended.
As amended.
Okay.
As amended.
So that's all I have for item number 10 then.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 6. We get that one done, and make a motion to approve item number 10 as amended.
Yeah, second.
Okay.
With the two motions?
Well,
In about 3
One
seconds.
motion, number 6.
And
Come on,
10 and
I'm
10
trying
as
to make
amended.
sure
No,
you're
I'll
talking
make
both
a
of
motion
them.
for number 6 and number 10 as amended.
Okay, all right, there's been a motion, did I hear a second?
Yes, second.
Yes.
Second,
There were 3 of them.
all in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, that takes care of the business session, we'll move on to our, excuse me, the consent calendar. Now we'll move on to the business session, and it's the new finance and human resources software system agreement with Tyler Technologies, Inc.
Good afternoon.
Stephanie.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Chris Escobedo, Assistant to City Manager. Gives me great pleasure to present this item to you this afternoon. The agreement before you is for the purchase of new finance and human resource software systems with Tyler Technologies. Going into a couple of slides here, I also provided paper copies to assist you in following along. Some of the key objectives and the outcomes as a part of this process is right now we have several initiatives underway to create the city government of the 21st century. A critical component in doing so is replacing our current software and financial system. In moving this process along, we established a process action team. I'll be introducing the members of that team in a couple minutes. And together and through our process, we unanimously selected Tyler as the vendor of choice. The most exciting part about it is that going forward, we'll be utilizing latest technology and best practices associated with that technology. So if you look at this slide here, it represents traditional workflow in computing. It looks onerous, it looks bureaucratic, it looks cumbersome. I put this before you only as a symbol of times of the past, because going forward, we will be utilizing latest technology and best practices. Some of those components are the cloud, as well as integrated workflow. As we look forward in terms of trends in the evolving public sector technology space, through this agreement and through our efforts here, we are moving in line with the trends. Some of the key items is, you may have heard of it, the cloud, which is to be able to safely and securely access applications and information over the internet. Many organizations are looking at mobile first or mobile only, which means a more focused use on mobile devices to provide frontline services. At the same time, we have the emergence of social business platforms, which takes social media and applies it to business, whereas our team here in La Quinta, while they're working on the budget, they can collaborate across folks throughout the country, share documents, information, templates on how to refine and enhance our process. Much of the new technology has simple and user-friendly interface because it shouldn't take having to read an encyclopedia to know how to turn on the system. So it's a big focus for us as well as making sure things are also very user-friendly. And the most important item is that through these trends, it allows us to enhance transparency and provide more access to information. So we will continue to see technology evolve, and it's made an impact in our everyday life as well as in the organization. Some of the key areas where technology has played a key role is on some everyday items like gas purchase. You can go and now pay for your gas at the pump. There's automated and paperless billing. Smartphones are digital personal assistants, and communication is changing. So as technology has impacted our everyday life, through this system, it will also impact and enhance the way we do business. And that comes in the form of new workflow systems, removing paperless invoicing, eliminating redundant and time-consuming processes, so we don't have to have multiple systems to add in data. And the key focus is, as we go through this, it's a constant and extensive training of our staff. This next slide here is labeled People, Process, and Technology, and you're going to hear us talk more about these three items. So the focus is through our workforce and through our people. They need to have them well trained. And with that, it drives an efficiently designed process, leading us to technology, making sure that it's both powerful and modern. The end result of those key items is to make sure that our customer service is enhanced, transparency is also enhanced, and that we make the delivery of our services more efficient. So, in addition to their everyday activities and day-to-day duties, the folks listed on this slide here, and I'll introduce them shortly, have all gone above and beyond in time and effort in bringing this item for you this evening. I'll start from the top down, and if you could just please raise your hand to show that you're here. Robin Bird, our Finance Director, Terry Behringer, our HR General Services Manager, Louise West, Accounting Manager, Mason Lord, IT Analyst, Amy McCormick, Business Analyst, Diane Martin, Financial Services Assistant. We have Cindy Henson and Dana Smith with Henson Consulting Group, and representing Nexel Information Technology, Patrick Griffin. So, the team assembled, what you have is a representation of across departments and across disciplines, people kind of bringing best thoughts and ideas to provide the best product for you for consideration this evening. The process that this team has gone through together, we underwent a strategic planning effort, identifying the problem and looking at how to bring resources to have the solution. Our process was extremely collaborative and engaging, from the RFP to when we had vendors demonstrate their product, leading us to identify some key solutions in the area of training and organizational development, and most importantly, through the implementation of this technology. So the team here, should you approve the item this evening, the charge going forward is to implement the software system, and with the team here as well, there will be other folks who will be joining and assisting in the effort for full implementation. The next slide here is, I'll talk a little bit about the investment and the cost. The red line represents on-premise or traditional procurement of system, meaning we would buy servers and technology and keep them on site and store everything locally. The blue-gray line at the bottom represents the cloud option or the hosted option, which this agreement we will participate in. In year one, the one-time cost of implementation is significantly lower by having it on the cloud. And then going forward, we have a fixed annual cost into the term of the agreement. While on the on-premise or the traditional approach, the annual cost may be low in the earlier portion of the term, you can see that it gradually upticks as years go on. So in the current budget, the City Council appropriated $850,000 for technology investments. The final cost of this item is just under $250,000, which is less than the original estimate. There will be no need to purchase expensive server equipment. So what you're seeing here is a all-inclusive price for this product. And then we also receive this servicing product in working with Tyler at a discounted price. So with that, staff recommends approval. More than happy to answer any questions.
Good, thank you. Questions?
Yeah,
Christie?
I have a question. The annual subscription fee is the $88,000.
Correct.
That's into perpetuity, I suppose. It goes on forever. Is there a cap on? I mean, can they increase this? Does it on a regular? Make a sentence, Christie. On an annual basis, is this gonna be increased?
It's fixed for the 5-year term of the agreement.
Okay.
Going forward, in the consideration of renewal, they cannot increase their price by anything more than 5%. And working with them, it's very typical for them not to enact that 5% increase. So with many of our clients, they keep those rates fixed.
Okay. I also wanted to make a comment, and I think that what I'm saying is true, that with the antiquated system that we have now in place, we're still paying an annual licensing fee, which is more than $88,000 a year by a couple thousand, right?
It's about there. It's come down from, initially it was about $100,000 and it's gradually decreased, but
Okay. Okay, so just so, because when I first read this, I thought, well, that's an awful lot of money to pay every year. But then in further investigation with Frank, he said, well, we're paying one right now for technology that's very antiquated. Okay, thank you. Put this together very well.
Lee?
Yes, sir, thank you. One of the items you talked about is frontline services regarding mobile only.
Mhm.
What types of frontline services are you talking about?
So as one of the trends, instead of looking at using laptops or desktops at a workstation, there are now devices where it serves as a laptop and you take off the monitor and it's now a tablet. So it's utilizing more of that technology, as well as should someone want to come in, versus having to go to a counter, they can potentially do everything they want on a device. At the same time, our folks in the field, versus using smartphones or cell phones, we will be able to integrate their primary function with elements of software. So versus taking a report, a snapshot, bringing it to the office and then inputting it into a system, they can have direct access to that information. So the software program can run on the iPad.
Okay. Now, that, in respect to the cloud, I mean, that is dependent upon our internet service. So what's the security of not the security within itself, but the security that we have dependable internet service 24/7, 365?
Terrific question, and we've been, as we go through this and the implementation, we've also developed solutions to enhance that. Our current internet speed has been increased, so it's faster. At the same time, we will be making additional investments in our IT infrastructure so that our line is dedicated, and we also provide Wi-Fi for the building. And then leading into the most secure, versus having an account where we share with multiple subscribers, we're looking to establish a dedicated hardwire line for us. And then also as a backup, it's very typical to not just use one vendor. So we can say we're using Time Warner as our primary, we can also bring on Verizon, for example, or others, so that we have secondary internet backups.
And then my last question, from a security standpoint, I mean, just security to our system in general, who oversees the security in our system?
Currently, our information technology analyst, Mason Lord.
And that will continue then into the future within this system?
Yeah, what you're going to see is through this option, our security will actually be enhanced. So we'll continue to store everything locally and have the secure backup of our local data, as well as with Tyler, they're required to have redundant systems. So you want them to have redundant systems because there's a primary place where the data sits and the secondary place where the data sits. And as they've indicated, the facilities that house their data are former Federal Reserve type buildings. So
these funds here don't just necessarily include software, but hardware as well to maintain that high level of security.
So when we pay our annual license fees, it comes with it. So it comes with that built-in feature. So we're paying for the access to use the software. In addition, we're paying that fee. We get 24/7 customer support. It's the ability to now participate in everything that their cloud system offers, and we're using their systems, which are guaranteed to provide constant support versus just our own. So our own will convert into a supporting role, so backing up that data.
But the data is automatically backed up on the cloud also.
Correct.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry?
On the beginning page of the staff report, on the fourth bullet point, the way I read that what it does is it gives me a level of comfort, if you will, that in 5 years, we don't have to throw this system away and buy a completely new system. Is that what this is telling me?
Absolutely.
Okay, now, how long do we think that will last? I mean, there will be a day when someone wants to just walk in and say, this is your system? This could be your system tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, what kind of year guarantee do we have? Or, I don't know that you can guarantee anything, but.
Get that crystal ball out of this office.
You're looking for a sunset clause?
Yeah.
I'll begin with, right, we know that technology constantly changes. One of the key advantages with Tyler is that they offer evergreen software, which is in a year from now, should their product change substantially, we get it automatically. And 5 years from now, should there be another software system out there that's within the same parent company of Tyler, they have multiple products. Should there be something else that we need, we also get that automatically in today's pricing.
Oh. So, automatically, but not automatically free.
Oh, it is evergreen, so we won't ever have to purchase the software again, but there may be professional services associated. So having their folks come out and assist us with
Teach us.
installation, but we won't have the licensing fees because we're paying them should we approve it upfront.
Okay, and then the only other thing that caught my eye is on the third page, or page 189, the second paragraph, there's a reference to Tyler providing outstanding product designed for the cities the size of La Quinta. What kind of barriers are there? I mean, we are a size today. What if we are a much bigger size tomorrow?
So going back into that evergreen commitment that they have, should we increase in size or add more complexity to our operations? As an example, agencies that have traditional police services and maybe they do utilities, there's another product that Tyler offers that we could upgrade to.
Okay, so I guess what if you were to read this a different way, it says that they have a product that's designed for cities the size of La Quinta, or bigger or smaller, whichever fits the look you're in.
Correct, because we certainly want to make sure that we get the appropriate product so that whatever is offered is not too intensive or not, the implementation requires more training and extensive work to implement.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Linda?
Sure. Couple of things. How did you find Next Level Information Technology?
Great question. So in December of last year, we requested proposals for firms to conduct an IT assessment. They were one of the vendors who participated in that process. Synoptic was the one that did the survey, but in moving forward, as we identified this, Next Level was willing and ready to assist us in our process as a part of this lake. So it was a part of that effort.
And then was Henson's role based on our agreement that we had already engaged with Henson from the people processes efficiency agreement?
Yes, this is one component of the overall agreement there. So they've also been greatly assisting in terms of making sure that it's connected with the overall process as well as the organizational change component.
And then in page 188, about the end of the third paragraph, it said the city will continue to utilize their services in support of the installation and to reconfigure city processes as a result. So is that under the existing agreement that we're currently using as part of the RFP and selection, or is that anticipated to be a continuation of sorts or amendment?
It's under existing agreements, but we are looking to amend potentially these agreements, because certainly what we don't want to do is install a system and then not have the other supporting mechanisms to make sure that we're completely successful. So we are looking at various iterations of that, but we do see a continuing role.
And this would be on top of what training Tyler would provide as part of the overall package
Correct.
to actually utilize the systems.
Yes.
This is more process and workflow of city day-to-day activities.
Correct.
Okay.
If I may interject too on this point, alluded to mobile applications. Well, as we've gotten into this, we now started to surface the thought of, instead of having our permit processing center being just for development permits, to expand it to facilitate whatever you come to City Hall for. So instead of going to various departments, you would go to one place. And then in talking with the executive team, we also started thinking, well, why couldn't we be like the Apple Store? So where you walk in, someone greets you, they take care of what you need and send you in the direction versus having people wandering through the place. So while that's still in the infancy stage of figuring out how we would implement it, and how we would deal with the space configuration to accommodate it, this is, in getting into this process, it's now identified new things that we're looking at to use to enhance how we serve the public.
So we budgeted, $850,000, but somehow you negotiated down to $249. So who gets credit for that?
The team.
Chris?
Team.
The team.
Where did you start with them,
Good answer.
that we ended up at a $249 package here? And does that include the first year service fees?
It does.
Okay.
So we're paying the first year fee within that 1 year cost, that year one cost.
Were you able to negotiate anything less than the service fees each year?
Yes, so I'll just say that the original estimate was about $349,000. So the cost that you have before you is about $100,000 less than that.
Strong word, strong word. So with that question though, is oftentimes when you buy these new systems, you know, the menu is the entire menu and we're really looking at X, Y, and Z, but oftentimes if you buy everything up front, whether you're ready to use them or not, it's a better deal.
And I would say bingo, that's exactly the approach we took. Because our system is one that evolves and changes, all the prices are locked at the discounted rates, and we have the ability to opt out of certain things that we no longer need or identify that we don't need.
So we're gonna buy the entire menu at the $100,000 less than what you started at price, and
Correct.
the lesser service agreement, of which the first year is built in, so that already saved us money. We're getting everything to use as needed and getting the upgrades as they come about, and it's all in the cloud.
Correct.
This is not an easy task, so congratulations to the entire team for everything to get to this point. This is big steps for us.
I guess, and I talked to Frank about this morning, I guess we're comfortable that this is gonna keep us in the 21st century.
Absolutely. And beyond that.
Because I'm sure staff has all gone through it, but you know, it's a progression that we have to keep up to date with technology and that, because it makes the city run and be more effective in its dealing with our customers. And so I'm happy that we're doing this and that we're moving forward, making it, I guess, more simpler, yet we're committed to improvement as the years go by. As we know, you know, every year they're changing. Technology is getting more and more, I'm not sure it's complex, maybe easier, I don't know. But I know it's something that we need to do in the city to keep us going forward. So, thank you for everything.
Next motion, we ready?
Well, can I, just
We're
one
ready?
comment before you do, I just wanna make sure, you know, getting back again to the security issue and having a wireless system, that we have a secure system that someone can't sit in the parking lot and log into our system. And so all those things are protected, and that's my concern.
Well, it will be. We're gonna eventually, yeah, it's gonna be protected and segmented as we go forward with the Wi-Fi. We're gonna have an employee network. We're gonna have a gas network. Those gas networks, you chop it up at the network hardware level so that the traffic from the gas level cannot get into our network, our private network level. I mean, there's always some way you can hack. I mean, we can be hacked currently. Hack if you know, all the credit card companies can be hacked. And
Sure. But you've got the support for that security from outside vendors where we're using to make sure that. And that's updated on a regular basis as within our annual fee.
Yeah, with the Tyler, well, the Wi-Fi will be separate, but I mean, we're gonna secure our network. But with the Tyler, you know, they use the encryption technology and stuff so that information in transit can't be, or if it is stolen, can't be unencrypted. As a matter of fact, they just require, I believe, in October of this year that all websites, including ours, can take payment. We have to use a stronger encryption because of all the supercomputers that can sit there and just hack away at these algorithms.
Right.
So now it's even stronger, and it would take, I can't even remember the number.
Okay,
but
well, that's
very-
fine, you know, you guys are there then,
Yeah.
okay, thank
And we
you.
already have a redundant internet connection, I just wanted to touch on that. We already have two, so we have a Verizon DSL, so if Time Warner goes down, it automatically will fail to the DSL.
Outstanding.
So we want to make sure that Snowden doesn't get into our system and start telling everybody else what we're doing.
He's in Siberia.
Great job.
Okay, I move
Thank you,
approval,
Chris.
I move approval of the agreement with Tyler Technologies, Inc. for new finance and human resources software and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement in a form acceptable to the city manager and the city attorney.
Second.
Moved to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay,
Good job, Chris.
that takes
Great
care of
job.
our business session. We'll move on to study session, and that's discussion on Vista Santa Rosa sphere of influence. Staff report, Les? Going back to work? That doesn't look like Vista Santa Rosa.
No, it's not. Get to the,
Question?
where's the other one?
That doesn't look like Vista Santa Rosa.
We need to do it at the laptop.
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me just a second. I think it's, we had two separate items going through.
Few technical difficulties.
Now we need that new technology.
Yeah, that's right.
For notification, the page numbers on your document sheet. So if you go to blank page 187, does that, you just need to refine that one up.
Thanks a lot. What kind of system I got? Maybe I'll lock them out.
Just, it's really helpful to have.
New technology.
Let's get around it on, and you can just go down here and put in like the page.
How soon can we get this new system?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, give us a.
Yes, I'll definitely, I'll do my best to
Sure.
represent this. Your Honor, council members, as you're aware, the Vista Santa Rosa sphere of influence, which is a fairly significant area, it's about 8,000 acres in size, was established back in April of 2006 by LAFCO. And it encompasses the majority of Vista Santa Rosa. There's a small portion just immediately to the north of our sphere that is deemed Vista Santa Rosa by the county, as well as about 1,000 to 1,200 acres south of Avenue 62. Our sphere of influence is basically Avenue, make sure I get this correct here, Avenue 52 to the north. It extends out to Van Buren, basically. There is a small sawtooth portion of the corner that's now in the city of Coachella. Ventures south on Van Buren, wraps around Coachella Valley High School to Airport. Ventures east to Airport out to Harrison, down to Avenue 62, and then back over to Monroe. And again, it's about 8,000 acres in size. And it's about, our sphere represents about 70% of the Vista Santa Rosa area as defined by the county. And we had multiple parties, as you'll recall, back circa 05 through 08, with interest in annexing properties from Vista Santa Rosa to the city. I think at one time we had about a half dozen different applications that were being processed. Most of that activity was single-family residential. I think the one exception was a very high-end executive mobile or RV park that was proposed. Through that process, there was a lot of questions that came up. We were in an effort of addressing those items, and then our current economic situation hit, and a lot of those, or all of those interests went away rather quickly after that. But one of the issues was with regards to fiscal modeling of those areas. We certainly wanted to make sure, as directed by council and staff, had a strong interest in making sure that it made sense financially for the city, that we could provide the services that the current residents of the city of La Quinta are used to, that same level of service would be provided to all of those properties that would be annexed in. One of the more significant issues is the fact that there is the county's thermal redevelopment agency boundary that encompasses the vast majority of Vista Santa Rosa, as well as you know, encroaches into a portion of the southern portion of our current city limits. So the fiscal modeling was very important in ensuring that, again, there was a financial, it made sense financially, if you will, to annex those properties in. The 2035 La Quinta General Plan effort included a proposal to identify an annexation area representative of our sphere of influence. As you may recall, prior to the 2035 General Plan, we actually had an additional 1,800 acres or so further to the southeast below Jackie Cochran Airport. That was pulled back through that exercise. And as we went through the General Plan update efforts, that's when it was requested by council that we bring this matter forward for your consideration. Mason just saved part of the day for me. Thank you, Mason.
Thanks, Tim.
This, the map here represents the sphere of influence. It's the darker area in the middle being our sphere. The boundary of Vista Santa Rosa, as the county has it identified, extends further to the south. It takes in about 1,800 acres south. And then there's a small pocket to the north, right above the sphere, and you can see the current city limits of Indio, Coachella, the city of La Quinta, and an incorporated Riverside County. So there's some key items that we brought forward for your consideration this afternoon. The first involving land use and density. The existing land use out in Vista Santa Rosa is very rural in nature. A lot of open space, undeveloped properties. Agriculture has been a predominant use for many, many years out in that area. And there is pockets of low density residential that exist as well. The county went through a very exhaustive process in circa 06 through 08 and created a land use concept plan that has been recognized by the Board of Supervisors and is being utilized by county staff. That essentially is encouraging low density residential developments within Vista Santa Rosa. And then another key point is that our current general plan calls for an effort for the city to master plan Vista Santa Rosa.
At 2035.
In the current 2035 La Quinta General Plan, it makes reference to the need for master planning that area. It does not put the financial burden necessarily on the city. In fact, there was even representation that it could go towards the developers. However, it was deemed a key point to make sure that there's a proper master plan in place for Vista Santa Rosa prior to annexation occurring out in that area.
Now, that's on the assumption that we don't adopt the existing plan that they've put together. And I can't remember the title they used.
Yeah, the plan that they have, and we can't afford to. I mean, they're planning
No, I know
with
that.
the trail system and
No, I
all
know
these
that,
things.
but that's what I'm saying, that our
Yeah.
master plan is not their master
Right.
plan.
And we would envision going even beyond their land use concept plan is just addressing land use. We believe that a master plan needs to go beyond that. We need to go back and revisit the fiscal modeling of whatever land use concept is brought forward through that exercise and be as comprehensive as we can, looking at transportation infrastructure issues, utility infrastructure issues, parks, open space, et cetera, being as comprehensive as we can in looking at that area. With regards to the sphere of influence boundary, it continues to be a very strong desire by residents and property owners within Vista Santa Rosa to keep the Vista Santa Rosa area intact. We attend on a regular basis all of the Vista Santa Rosa Community Council meetings. We have staff representation at every meeting, and that continues to be a very strong position being taken by that community council, and we hear from other residents and property owners out there as well. Now the city previously considered a phased annexation approach. In the mid-2000s, there was quite a bit of conversation about a phased annexation, with Jackson being the eastern boundary for phase 1 and then phase 2 going further out. And so that is certainly something that we didn't include in the 2035 general plan, but certainly is something worth council's consideration. With regards to fiscal impact, the formal thermal redevelopment agency still has an obligation, a financial obligation. I believe it was in 2010 that the county restructured the financial bond obligation, not only for the thermal RD, but countywide. So now we're facing a year 2035 sunset of the bonding obligation on all of those properties within the former thermal RDA boundary. And it's very imperative that a new fiscal impact analysis be conducted if the city is to pursue annexation within Vista Santa Rosa. Other agency interests, we have in the past heard interest in annexation for both Indio and Coachella. Indio had a fairly aggressive interest about 4 years ago. That has not been expressed since then. The city of Coachella has expressed interest in the past. They have a portion of Vista Santa Rosa that it's within the utility service boundary. I would like to point out that we have 2 representatives from the city of Coachella here in the audience this afternoon, and we were talking a little bit prior to this. Even though they have a utility interest out there, that may or may not necessarily mean that they want to annex property with Vista Santa Rosa. So we're talking about that quite a bit. It's been a conversation, and in fact, it was even a conversation that was very briefly discussed, and certainly needs to be discussed further when the cities of Indio, Coachella, and La Quinta got together here about 60 days or so ago. And so we anticipate going forward that will be a topic that needs to be discussed amongst the 3 cities and with the county involved as well. There has historically been other interest expressed by Indio and Coachella. So with regards to council input, we really have 4 items, questions maybe to ask to stimulate conversation this afternoon. First of all, is annexing the sphere of influence still a viable opportunity for the city to consider going forward? Though we did identify that in the 2035 general plan, that doesn't commit necessarily the city to have to annex properties out within the sphere. And should the existing sphere of influence boundary remain as it currently is established by LAFCO? Should staff explore if the all or nothing perspective for annexation out in Vista Santa Rosa still applies? And then also, when should a master plan for the sphere of influence proceed? So with that, I'll conclude my staff report and definitely look forward to answering questions you might have and hearing the discussion this afternoon.
Will you leave those questions up?
Yes.
It'll be easier.
Questions to staff? Somebody want to lead on?
I don't have a question, I have maybe a clarification, a comment, clarification.
First, let's do questions. Anybody?
Well, I have a question, and I don't know that you know the answer to this question, and that's one of my bigger concerns. What hidden cost does the city incur with this large sphere of influence? I mean, are there aspects going on right now where we could be charged because of our sphere of influence, whether it be freeway access on Jefferson or other matters, that our share of any development costs in the valley be increased because of our sphere of influence?
Well, there's certainly that potential. I think the example, like you mentioned, with you're probably referring to the Jefferson Street I-10
Right.
interchange in that exercise that has been underway was underway recently to kind of figure out who's paying what portion. That could certainly hold true for future infrastructure improvements, regional improvements. be it on the 86 Expressway or otherwise. We also know that from a road infrastructure standpoint, it's set up for, it may be conducive to the rural, low-density residential agricultural environment that's there today, but it certainly will not accommodate any development that would be similar to the density that we currently have in our residential areas. So
If they do new intersections on Monroe Street or Jackson, could we incur cost because of our sphere of influence off of those roads?
without annexing into that area?
Right.
Well,
Strictly from our sphere of influence.
It's not our property, it's county
currently
property.
today, no, but there was conversation that the county had that seems to have stalled. When the expressway, the South Valley Parkway Expressway
Avenue
was being
62.
brought up, 62 and
Through Monroe,
60 in that
right.
area, there was conversation about creating a benefit district, and that there would be a kind of a ability to spread that cost for the parkway and other infrastructure, road infrastructure improvements within the Vista Santa Rosa boundary amongst all of those properties. So obviously, if that were established and the city annexed those
Yes,
properties,
then
there
we
would be an
would-
obligation
Only
and
one
responsibility
annexation.
through
But, I mean,
that.
I wouldn't wanna take any cost away from Coachella if they want to participate. But, okay, but only if annexation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that district, again, has not been established. It was discussed. It was a very focused conversation back circa '06 to '08. But obviously, when development activity dropped off, so did that. The interest went away.
But didn't CBEG just discuss taking airport all the way out to the 10? Past 86 out to the 10, right? There was that discussion as well.
Well,
What percentage of Vista Santa Rosa is in our SOI?
It's
I don't think,
like
I heard a really high number and that doesn't compute with.
Oh, we're about,
This is all, this is in our,
Oh, that
it's
is?
not just down here, it's all of
Oh,
it.
okay.
Vista Santa Rosa
Area.
Okay.
would be this, it's all of this,
Oh, okay,
including this
all right.
pocket. So
Okay.
we have about, I think it's around 65–70%
Okay, all right.
of Vista Santa Rosa.
Well, see, I saw that line there in a different color and I'm thinking, oh,
Yes.
I thought it was all the way up here, okay.
You know, to me, the biggest problem that we have is until we get the county to change its position, meaning that they have the revenue sources on any development that goes into that area. You know, it's uneconomical for us to go ahead and annex something, and we get all the expenses, meaning infrastructure, police, fire, everything else, but we get no revenue coming back from developers building. And until we change that attitude of the county, I mean, how can we move forward on something like that? It's, you know, it'd be stupid of us. And but as I talked to Frank this morning, I says, maybe the time is right to go to our Mr. Benoit, Mr. Ashley, and say, okay, what can you do for us to change this and let us, you know, if we develop, because it'll improve the facilities and you'll garner money from the thing too. But at least the burden will not be put on the city of La Quinta.
Well, to the extent that they have not already spent that money.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that had already been spent, whether it's improvements in Mecca or Thermal, I mean, they've already spent.
well, they've spent their money.
Yeah, I remember
that money's
discussion
in
with
our
Roy
budget.
Wilson.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's already spent.
So, you know, I think that this whole thing, that needs to be changed, so that we will share in the revenues that, and the development that occurs in the Vista Santa Rosa area.
I think the one challenge is that, be it if the funds have been expended or not, but also the county's in the same situation as us, where there's no longer an RDA. And so there's still obligations and there's limitations now through this, they're going through the same situation that we are.
Don't you think it's time, though, that we communicate and we start talking about this at the county?
Certainly, we can talk with the county. I think one of the bigger items, or a big item along with that, Mayor, is the late Supervisor Wilson was very adamant on his position on Vista Santa Rosa. We
And
have not
excuse
talked-
me, but Mr. Wilson is no longer with us.
I said the late Supervisor Wilson said that before, and we would want to revisit that with Mr. Benoit to find out if he shares in that position.
That's what we need to do.
Correct.
That's a starting point.
Yes.
I mean, and unless we change this attitude, It's hard for us to sit there and want to annex into this Vista Santa Rosa area. And it'll end up costing us, and it'll be a burden on us, and that is not acceptable.
But we have not had any conversations with Supervisor Benoit about annexation out there, so we don't know if he shares in that same position. So that's certainly something we could explore.
Hate to say it, but he's up for election.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be a significant part of the procedure going forward for the next 18 months. So, there's a couple things that I wanted to get clarity on, and I'm glad Coachilla's here because they can help maybe on this question. LAFCO did require the city of Coachella and the Coachella Valley Water District to reach an agreement on the service area for the Coachella Valley, or the city of Coachella's water service. And they did go out and they did reach an agreement, and the agreement, as I understand it, says that the city of Coachella could service to Jackson Street. Okay? Now, having said that, that service to Jackson Street means nothing to LAFCO. And it is not in any way, even for the city of La Quinta, to have a kind of a mindset that because the two water districts agreed to Jackson, that we are somehow forced into agreeing to Jackson too. Not that I don't agree to Jackson, because that's where we really were to begin with,
Right.
was just to go to Jackson. But, according to the staff report, we did receive a letter from the city of Coachella regarding, let me find what's on here, I just read it. Yeah, at the bottom of 213. The city expressed interest in annexing a portion of the SOI due to their water service, utility service boundary that currently exists north of Avenue 56 and east of Jackson. So while I think under normal circumstances, if we would have read that, we would have said, oh, but they can serve water to Jackson, so that's a normal boundary for them, and we should just go along with this. And I don't, that's not, it has nothing to do with LAFCO, and it does not sign that portion over to, it still stays in the city of La Quinta's SOI, unless there's a whole bunch of people that can sit down and suddenly agree that Jackson is a good dividing line, and I don't see that as any possibility of any time in the future. And I do agree that we do have to have these conversations. And, however, there's no question in my mind that between now and the election in November of 2014, that you're going to get Benoit or Perez to go against Vista Santa Rosa.
Oh, no, I wouldn't think.
So they're all going to say, sure, we like the VSR, we like the Vista Santa Rosa plan. You know, it doesn't do anything good for anybody, but they're not going to.
But they want to stay with the existing SOI.
Well, that would be up to LAFCO. If we can get enough votes on LAFCO to change the SOI to Jackson. But, you know, you remember what happened last time. The VSR people all showed up at LAFCO and pleaded their case and won over the supervisors and took the vote at LAFCO. And I was the only one that voted against. No, there was a couple of us that voted against it because I knew that our agreement with the city of Coachella was Jackson. So there's all just everything out there right now is it's in a bigger state of flux than we are. Seriously, yeah, if that's possible, it's in a bigger state of flux than we are. My personal opinion at this particular time is to carefully watch what's going on out there by other agencies. Carefully watch what the city of Coachella is doing. Watch what, and the reason I say this is because where Andalusia is, we sat by and let the county put that in their redevelopment agency. We could have stopped that if we'd been watching that a little more carefully. So we have to put all of this on our radar screen, that we are gonna watch every agency and what they're doing, and we're gonna jump before they somehow or other make an action that is detrimental to the city of Lecanto. Your concerns on the freeway
Right.
exits is a very vital one, and it's, we need to watch all of that action too. And then if, you know, the only thing I can think of is if there's enough negative, we take that to LAFCO and say, look, this is not what we wanted.
Right.
So you guys need to, you know, revisit this SOI, and, cause you're costing us, potentially going to cost us money. Now, we can start that process if you wanted to just start it, but I think for right now that we
Right
should
now,
just,
yeah,
I mean, there's so many things on everybody's plate
right.
with the RDA stuff. I think we ought to get over the RDA stuff and then have this come back. And the concern on LAFCO wanting some information by August 2nd was nothing more than the first letter out to all cities to notify them that they're gonna begin the second round of the sphere of influence. That's not what we call them. What do we call them?
Municipal services review?
Hey, the municipal service reviews. And that could take 2 or 3, 4 years before they get around to looking at it. The only disadvantage is if we allow that to happen, when we could have had some input into it, is, and they create the municipal sphere of influence or services, and we wanna change it, then we have to apply for a change and we have all the fees that we have to, but you can do it. We can, legally, we can do it, but the dollar is on us to make the change. So,
Your recommendation, stay the course.
just stay the course for right now and let the RDA stuff kind of settle down. And as far as the developers are concerned, you know, ask them if they're still interested in $25,000 a rooftop. And if they are, I don't want them in the city because it's a bad financial move to make.
Certainly is.
Well, I mean, I've got stay the course written down here, taking the mayor's phrase on a multitude of issues that we've dealt with. I'm comfortable keeping the SOI the way it is, and I also think we can direct staff to send a letter saying that we have no anticipated changes over the next 5 years, so it's on record. Whether something else comes up, we can readdress it at that point in time. I don't think we should annex it. We don't have money for infrastructure or operations or maintenance. We don't have the money. I can't see financially even getting $25,000 per home. I can't see how we will support this in any way, shape, or form.
It's a Band-Aid.
This is, and when we've got a development, I mean, I look at this as a post-Silver Rock potentially discussion. I mean, we've got to concentrate on getting that destination built and TOT coming in before we consider taking on any more burden. And if the residents aren't ready for that anyway, we can be nice neighbors in SOI without having the financial burden to go along with it. That's,
Unless there's any other comments?
We have our direction.
That's your direction.
Thank you, Les. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to reports and informational items. Linda, you first.
well, we turned over the chamber exchange to Terry, so she can report on that, and I haven't had meetings in CVAC or CDB since the last report, so I'm clear.
Okay, next would be Christie.
Yes, I have 2 meetings coming up this week. The Coachella Valley Mountain Conservancy, Matt basically introduced their new executive director, and he gave a short report. And then, let's see, we had, bear with me here a minute. We approved accepting an easement donated by the CVCC, and it's located in Thousand Palms and Willow Hole conservation areas. There's not a whole lot going on right now.
Quiet.
There, it's very quiet, and so we probably won't meet again for another few months.
Terry?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a few things to report on. The first thing, which is good news, is Riverside County Transportation Commission reached a compromise and agreement on the Paris Valley line with the Friends of the Riverside Hills. And so we are able to move forward on that project. I think, I'm sure that I There was, however, a $3 million settlement, which was the max that we allowed staff to go forward with. We will not be releasing $3 million to the Friends of the Riverside Hills, but we will be releasing it to the agreed upon projects and programs in the agreement. So they don't get any money, their attorney gets money, and then certain mitigation measures will be paid for out of that, and we control the dollars. So it was all in all, and I think it had a lot to do with the dust that was stirred up after the paper finally hit that we were in a lawsuit. Because the attorneys went into their office the next day after our closed session hearing and said they're mad. And they're darn mad. And if if we don't reach a settlement on this, they're going to go public with a lot of things that were closed session items. So scared the devil out of them. And I think it was a good thing. I hope it stays. The devil stays with them. Then on a couple of things from the would be the National League of Cities through the League of the California Cities was a letter that the State League sent to the National League in support of H.R. 684 and Senate S. 743, which is the Marketplace Fairness Act, and this has to do with sales tax on internet sales. So I think that if I can give these to staff and maintaining the tax exempt status on municipal bonds, that we ought to have letters in there in support of these two. So I can leave those with staff. I did meet with the chamber last Monday, I think it was. It was a fairly good meeting. We talked about some of the issues that I had an opportunity to tell them about our arena numbers and how we were very fortunate to get the numbers that we did and what the assumption of why those arena numbers went down. I'd be interested in knowing whether the Chills arena numbers went up or down.
Yeah, they've gone up.
They went up?
Wow.
And then we had some carryover from our last cycle.
And they went up for you
Yeah, we're
guys?
up to like 6,700 units.
That's a lot. Wow.
Well, that's because they're trying to make you a metropolitan area. Ours went down to 340.
No, I know.
It's incredible.
That
You got all of our numbers.
That's right.
Future growth area.
And I had a chance to talk to the chamber about the fundraiser that CityPac has coming up for our division, which is October. Oh no, this is the wrong. This is the CityPac at the conference in September.
Sacramento.
But the division's
Golf.
golf tournament fundraiser, the Morongo Band of Cahuilla Indians, I believe that's what they're called. They are underwriting the tournament on their course, the tournament, dinner that night, and lunch that day. So they've really, really stepped to the plate. And of course, the division is still looking for participation from council members, not from cities. We can't use cities' dollars for any of these purposes. I'm merely reporting on that at this time. Don't go away, don't go before. I just have to find it. And if I don't, you're all lucky. I'm not finding it, Mr. Mayor, so move ahead.
Okay, Lee?
I don't have anything. I'll have a IID ECAC meeting next week, but otherwise I don't. Right now, the homelessness committee won't be meeting again until September.
Good. And I don't either, although I got a notice that they called a special meeting of the finance department at Sunline for tomorrow, real quick, and that from the billing we got from Rutan and Tucker. Just for your information, Kathy. So they called a special meeting. So we'll deal with the issue.
busy.
I'm sure he has
Too
been.
busy over there.
And then, okay, we'll move on to department reports, city manager.
There's two items I'd like to just mention. One, yesterday, our office participated in a conference call regarding reviving Assembly Bill 981. This is the bill that was making it through the Assembly that would allow successor agencies access to 2011 former redevelopment agency bond proceeds. There's an effort to revive that activity, and we have about $28 million of outstanding 2011 bond proceeds. So we have elected to join the working group to see how that moves forward, and so there'll be more coming forward on that. One of the points they brought up is the potential to set up a coalition to meet with the governor, because now all things in Sacramento are such that if you need to move forward, you have to get the blessing of the governor, and then it might happen. So we'll keep you posted on that piece. The second is today at 11:30, Kathy, Chris, Mr. Osborne, and myself attended a meeting hosted by Assemblymember Perez. It was staff members from the Department of Finance, and they were providing us clarification about various procedures and things they're up to. Kathy and I will be looking into some of those pieces as we move forward to see if there are any opportunities that we may be able to take advantage of as relates to Silver Rock, as relates to our dispute with the state regarding the general fund loan repayment and the like. It was a very cordial meeting. Moments there were a little bit of crispness in the air, but basically we have some thoughts that we're going to be pursuing further on that one.
If I could add to that, it was interesting in the DOF personnel, the two gentlemen that were there, thought they gave out a couple of jokes, but they were the only ones laughing. No one else at all. And, but it is very concerning that there are now 122 lawsuits against the DOF.
Yeah.
And the DOF think that's not bad. That's not bad at all. They think they're doing pretty good with only 122 lawsuits. Over 25% of all the RDAs out there have a lawsuit against the DOF, and they think they're doing pretty good. So that is a bit of a huge concern.
Says something about the frame of reference.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, city attorney,
I have no report.
city finance department. City clerk,
No additional report?
okay, and anybody from our staff?
Good report from Public Works, thank you. And
Okay.
last, yours too.
That'll take care of department reports on mayor and council members' items. I just have one item. I don't know how many of you drive up Jefferson between 54 and 52, but Madison Club is landscaping the right-of-way.
Oh,
And
great.
finally, you know, after all the comments and everything that's gone by earlier this year, but it's good to see them out there landscaping that whole section. So they're moving forward, which is good.
It's a great time to be planting plants.
But they're out there doing
Not the
it.
water though.
I have something.
Okay, sure.
Quite frequently, I come into La Quinta and I'm looking at our two entry signs, and I'm thinking, we spend X number of dollars on marketing and trying to get people here, and they have to drive from, let's say, the airport or wherever they're coming from, through all these other cities, and they're in La Quinta. Both of those signs are so tired. And I know we can't do anything about it, but can we I'm just bringing it up so we can think about it, because they're awful.
Great proposal with the bell towers and all kinds of
Well, we
cool
can't
things.
afford the bell towers and
I
all
know.
the cool things, but, so then I started looking at other folks' entry signs, and Indian Wells, very simple, but very nice, no water, we don't have to pay for the water, whatever activity. Mount Deserts is a little simplistic in my opinion, but ours is just tired. I mean, it's faded and tired, and the quail's complaining. Come on. Anyway, I just bring that up for
We
whatever.
can maybe have Matt's crew drive a police cruiser through.
Funny.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay. Unless there's anything else, at this time then I'll recess the city council meeting. We'll be going into closed session and that.
And we need to reference the closed session agenda items.
Okay.
Are we gonna do successful?
You wanna we'll move on.
But you can go ahead and recess, but go ahead and do that one, and then we'll go over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the items listed on the agenda.
You have to read the closed session items.
No,
It's referenced.
Okay.
Items number 1, conference with legal counsel relating to our pending lawsuit against the DOF. And then number 2, conference
with the property negotiator Frank Spavacek relating to all the Silver Rock parcels with John Gamblin and Robert Green as reflected on the agenda.
Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, at this time, I'll call to order the regular meeting of the successor agency to the La Quinta Redevelopment Agency for Tuesday, July 16, 2013. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Anybody wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we're losing all our public. And that, we'll move on to confirmation of agenda. Any changes by staff?
Nope.
By agency members?
No.
Okay. No presentations. I'll ask for approval of minutes of July 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Move on to the consent calendar.
Move the consent calendar.
Second.
I have one correction on page 21 of consent item number, I'm sorry, nope, scratch that, it's business item.
Nothing?
Retract.
Okay. All right. Did we get a motion in a second for
Yes, we did.
consent
We did.
calendar?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move on to business session. It's a resolution of the City of La Quinta acting as the successor agency to the dissolved La Quinta Redevelopment Agency, reapproving the form of the preliminary official statement to deem it final under Rule 15C2-12 and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith.
So I just want to make one quick correction on the report. It looks like on the second page, page 21, in the third paragraph in your background analysis, it appears that it says when the successor agency considered this item in June 2014, it should be June 2013, correct? That was just last month when we discussed this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
that's okay.
Okay.
And Mayor, what this action is it's approving a preliminary official statement to move forward with the refinancing of the former redevelopment agency bonds. As we have outlined in the report, the bond market has shifted since we last visited this item in June. The potential savings based upon the information I received at 3:30 this afternoon would show that in the current bond market, our savings would go from $1.2 million annually to $900,000 annually. It tanked more when the bond market did its whoopsie-doo between June and now. There's anticipation that when the Fed chair has his comments later this week, that will bolster the bond market. Bottom line is, we still haven't received the Department of Finance approval yet, though we have been fielding many questions from them regarding this bond issue. And when we get through with that, we'll take an assessment of where we're at. We'll keep you informed if we are achieving or in the ballpark achieving the savings. And then, based upon that assessment, we'll determine whether or not we will refund these bonds or not.
So then, given that status, do we even want to act on this at this time, or
Yes.
wait for more? We still want to provide that flexibility, so there's a strike while.
Given the fact that you're going dark in August,
That's true.
we don't want to be in a position where we miss the window if things go favorably.
Okay.
Somehow.
All right, questions of staff? Seeing none, and then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval of resolution number 2013-007, a resolution of the City of La Quinta acting as the successor agency, the dissolved La Quinta Redevelopment Agency, reapproving the form of the preliminary official statement to deem it final under Rule 15C2-12 and authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to, at this time, I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Finance Authority for Tuesday, July 16, 2013. First item on the agenda, public comments. We have no public with us, so move on to confirmation of the agenda. Any changes by staff?
None?
By agency members? Okay. I'll ask for approval of minutes of June 18,
So moved.
2013.
Second.
Moved to second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor? Motion passes.
Move adjournment.
Second.
Moved in second for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, I'll reconvene the Housing Authority for the regular meeting at Tuesday.
Actually, you already recessed that meeting. This is a new meeting.
Oh, this is a new meeting.
This is the regular meeting. You had a special meeting
Oh,
before.
so I'll now call
it's
to
not-
order the regular meeting of the Housing Authority for Tuesday, July 16th. And let the record show that all authority members are present. I'll ask for verbal announcement of AB 23 again.
Board members of the La Quinta Housing Authority are entitled to receive a $50 stipend as set by section 34274 of the Health and Safety Code, not to exceed 4 meetings per month, to be paid to members in attendance at every convened housing authority meeting.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll ask for public comment. There being none, we'll move to confirmation of agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
No?
Thank you. Next, I'll ask for approval of minutes of June 18th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll ask for the consent
Move the
calendar.
consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. We have no business session or any other items. Before we adjourn, under chair and board member items, I would like to ask that our staff be mindful that these new agenda packets are a bit more cumbersome than they used to be. So just a couple of things to help an old guy. If you guys are gonna make copies of something in color, I ask that the copy be in color. If you're gonna give us a map to read, allow it to be readable without a microphone or microscope or something like that. And just to allow us to be able to read the agendas. There have been times with some of these information where we get copies of copies of copies which are unreadable, or copies of something in color where the copy's in black and white, which you lose perspective of what it is, maybe it's graphs or something. And there have been maps and diagrams in these agendas that have been unreadable because the print is so very, very small. And so, even with my reading glasses, I still can't read some of these maps. So I would just ask our department heads to be mindful of an old guy trying to read these and understand them and make them more readable. And that's all I have. Otherwise, I'll
Motion
take
to
a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.